Hello, welcome back to the Board Games 4K YouTube channel, and this is a channel where we're going to give you reviews, playthroughs, unboxings, and we generally talk a load of bollocks about tabletop gaming in general. And in this video we're going to be talking about a 2014 game designed by a German geezer called Mac Gerdts. We're going to be talking about Concordia, and in this game you'll be playing cards from your hand to gather resources which will enable you to move your colonists both on land and on sea and build buildings in order to score victory points based on what cards you have managed to place in your deck, and this will allow you to win the game. So in this video we're going to give you a brief overview of the rules. We will be telling you what we do like, what we don't like, and then we'll come back and we'll tell you whether or not Concordia is still worth playing 5 years after its initial release. So remember, if you're new here, then please consider subscribing to this channel. Leave a comment in that section down below, and we'll see you after this. Board Games 4K. So Concordia, how do you play this game? So at the beginning of Concordia, everybody starts with a hand of the same cards, and what you'll do on your turn, you'll look through your hand of cards and you'll decide to play a card face up in front of you, and you will execute the action that is associated with that card, right? So some of the cards that you can play and the actions associated with them are, you can play the architect card, and this will allow you to move your colonists and then build on a certain spot. So you look at the amount of colonists you've already got on the board, and that will determine the amount of spaces that you can move your colonists. Say if you had 4 colonists out on the board already, you could move 1 colonist 4 spaces, or you could move say 2 colonists 2 spaces, and so on. You get the idea, right? So following on from this, the second part of this action is that you can build a house in any space that's adjacent to one of your colonists, and what you'll do, you'll pay the relevant goods and coins to the bank, and then you'll place a building on that space. And if there's already a building on that space, then the cost in coins is multiplied by how many buildings there's already on that space, right? So the second card you can play is the prefect card, and what you'll do here, you'll look at the little chart on the board, and you'll flip over the token and you'll get one of those goods, and then you'll look at the province associated with that token. For every house that has that type of good, you will receive that many goods, right? So instead of producing, you can take the money. So for every visible coin there is on that chart, then you'll take that many coins into your hand. And this also links in with the Perfectus Magnus card. So if you're in possession of that, then you will double the amount of resources that you get. Nice. So the third thing that you can do is you can play the colonist card, and what this will allow you to do, you can place new colonists on the board by paying 1 tool and 1 food, or you can get 5 sestertii, 5 coins, plus 1 sestertii for every colonist that you already have on the board, right? So the next thing that you could do is you could take the Mercator action. So you get 5 coins from the bank, and then you could trade in 2 types with the bank. So that means you can either buy them or you can sell them, and each type of good that you want to buy or sell is sold or bought at a fixed price, and you can see that at the top of your storehouse. So next thing you can do, you can play the diplomat card, and what this allows you to do, you can look at all the face-up cards on the other players' discard piles, and the diplomat will allow you to use the face-up discarded card of one of the other players, which is pretty powerful. So the next thing you can do is you can play the senator card, and this will allow you to buy up to 2 cards from the display on the game board, right? And what you'll do, you pay the amount of goods that it tells you to pay, and you'll also pay the goods that are actually on the card itself. And if there's any spaces, you'll slide them down, and then you'll draw another card to fill that up, and you'll put these cards directly into your hand. So the next thing you can do, you can play the consul card, and this is sort of like a variation on the senator card, but this allows you to buy 1 card from the display, but you don't pay the goods that are beneath the card's position on the game board. So there's also specialist cards. These are the farmer, the mason, the vintner, the smith, and the weaver. And the way this works is that all of your houses that are related to those types of goods will produce 1 good. So the final thing that you can do is you can play a tribune card, and basically what this allows you to do, you can take all of your discarded cards back into your hand, and then you'll be able to purchase 1 colonist for 1 food and 1 tool. If you play your tribune card, you'll basically do some intermediate scoring. You'll score all your cards like you would in the end of the game. You'll compare all scores together, and then the player with the highest score will get 2 sestertii, right? So you'll keep doing this and doing this and doing this until you empty the display on the game board, or somebody's built their 15th house, and then you'll do a bit of final scoring, and then the player with the most victory points will win the game. And the final scoring is based on suits of the cards that you have in your hand at the end of the game. You'll notice that each of these cards belongs to a suit of a god, right? So you've got Vesta, which is the total value of all the goods in your storehouse. So you've got Jupiter, which is for every house in a non-brick city, you'll get 1 victory point for the maximum of 15. You've got Saturnus, which is for each province with at least one of their houses, you'll get a victory point. And you've got Mercurius, which is you'll get 2 victory points for each type of good that player produces with their houses. You've got Mars, which is for each colonist on the game board, you'll get 2 victory points. And then you've got Minerva, for each city of the depicted city type on a specialist cards, you'll get a certain amount of victory points. So like we said, you'll top up all your victory points, and the player with the most victory points is the winner of Concordia. So what do we like about Concordia? So the first thing that we really like about Concordia is the simple mechanics, and basically what it boils down to is you play a card from your hand and you execute the action on a card, and it don't get much more simple than that, does it, kids? So it's wonderful. It's so easy to teach. Okay, there's a little bit more to it than that, obviously, because you need to know what the actions are, but they're so simple. It's just, oh, you get to move your colonists and then build, or you get to mess about with the goods in your storehouse, or you can buy cards from the display, and it's so simple. It opens up into this wonderful game that is so easy to play, so satisfying to play, and the simple mechanics is probably one of the strongest points of this game. So the second thing that we like about this game is the fact that it builds upon Mac Gerdts' other games. So Mac Gerdts is famous for one thing, right? It's the rondel. So we saw this in Antica or Antiki or whatever. We saw this in Navigador and Imperial and Hamburgum, right? So what he's done, he's eliminated the rondel, so to speak, but what he's done is replaced it with a deck of cards, and it's the same sort of thing. You'll go around the rondel with cards this time. So you'll play a card, you'll scoop them all up, and it's almost like you're sort of just going round and round and round and round and round, right? So we like the fact that instead of just having a rondel on the board, he's ramped up the interest in this game, and it's really strong. It's really strong, the fact that you've got that rondel in there, but it's completely and utterly different. So the first thing we really like about it is it scales moderately well due to the amount of maps that are available. And God, I don't know how many there are now. You've got the German map, the Britain map, the Cyprus map, the Egyptus map. I've lost count. There's loads, and there's more. The only thing we're pissed off about with this is the fact that the extra map wasn't available in the expansion for Concordia Venus. But we're not talking about Concordia Venus just yet. Right? We're not talking about that today. We'll talk about that later. But there's so many different maps, and they all scale from say 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, and it works wonderfully. There's a map for everybody in this game. So the next thing that we really like about this is the choice of when you get to play the Tribune card. So you're sort of torn between, do you hang on, do you wait until you've played all the cards in your hand, wait and see how the game opens up and whether or not you've got any opportunities that are going to come up, and then play a Tribune card to score, or do you play your Tribune card early to score and then get all those cards back into your hand? So it's a lovely choice. You're waiting on other players to maybe help you along and sort of decide. Their actions are going to help you decide when to play your Tribune card. But if you might take a risk and think, well, they're not going to do something that's going to benefit me, so I'll do it now. We love that. We love the fact that the other players have a direct bearing on what you do in the game, and that is excellent. So the next thing that we really do like about this is the expansions to this are absolutely essential, like the salsa expansion, which we'll just talk about it briefly. But basically what it does, it adds the salt, which is sort of a wild card sort of good, so it acts as anything. And there's some other things that are thrown in, some extra tiles that you can use, which give you sort of one-shot bonuses or permanent abilities. So we really like the expansions. We've got Venus, but we haven't played it yet, so we'll get into that another day. But the salsa expansion is an absolute must. If you're going to get Concordia, then you definitely have to get the salsa expansion. So what don't we like about Concordia? So the first thing that we don't like about Concordia is the fact that it's quite difficult to remember what the final scoring actually is, and it will take you a few plays to sort of get this into your head, because you're trying to figure out in your mind at the start when you first play this is what the actions on the cards are actually what they do. And in order to score points, you've got to know what the suits of those cards actually allow you to do. And it's a bit difficult to sort of keep those two factors in your head and then formulate a strategy on a board and make those two things work in tandem. So it will take you a few plays to get that into your head, because you could download cheat sheets and all this sort of stuff and you get one with the game, but it's very difficult to sort of juggle those two things together when you first start playing this game. So the second thing that we don't like about Concordia is that some of the maps are a bit too tight at lower player counts, and we're going to say that this game probably, we're going to go out on a limit, it doesn't really work with 2 players. It's a bit open, but then if you're playing on those smaller maps with 3 players, it might get that little bit too tight. So it's a bit of a mismatch at lower player counts. I mean, you know, at 3 players the smaller maps are too tight, but at 2 players they're too big, and we wouldn't, I wouldn't play this with 2 players. I'd play something else. I'd play a smaller game, or maybe 8-Minute Empire or something like that. I don't know. It doesn't really work at 2 players, maybe not even 3. You know, it all depends what map you're going to play, and we would prefer to play this at a full player count of maybe 4 or 5. So to summarise, is Concordia still worth playing 5 years after its initial release? And we're going to say yes, this is without doubt a 5-star game. I'm going to go even further and say that this is one of the best games ever designed. And Mac Gerdts, you have produced an absolute masterpiece with this game, and the fact that it is still being supported 5 years after its release is proof that this game is an absolute classic. It's unrivaled. This game is wonderful. It stands on its own. There's nothing really quite like it, and it gives you that sense of a Euro, but with a bit of deck building, and it's just a wonderful, phenomenal game. We like the fact that you're constantly watching what other players are doing. You're constantly watching whether or not they're going to buy the cards you want, whether or not you want to get in there quickly, play your Tribune to get your cards back into your hand that will allow you to do that, or whether you're going to bleed your hand dry. It's a wonderful game. It's got everything that you need if you like these sort of Euro, sort of civilization sort of building games, and we love it. It's a 5-star game. We implore you to at least try Concordia once. Start with the basic game. Try and play it at the full player count of 5, if not 4, and we love it. We highly recommend Concordia. It's one of our favourite games of all time. So that's Concordia. If you're new here, then please consider subscribing to our channel. Leave a comment in that section down below, and we'll see you next time.